All right. All right, so taking your seated centering position, you can take the dominant crossing and just take a moment to adjust yourself to feel really balanced over the sitting bones, feel really aligned from the shoulders to the hips. And then just kind of giving a message to the legs to release any effort, any gripping, so that they can truly feel like they can descend with their weight and establish a nice foundation for your seated posture. Rolling the shoulder blades in toward the chest. And just see if you can extend from your chin up to the base of the skull. Positioning the skull right above the spine. And then without disturbing or changing most of this, just bring the hands together in front of the heart. Close the eyes and look down. And the mind, if it's time traveling past or future, just kind of harnessing your awareness in presence. Just by starting to pay attention to anything you notice. There's a saying in yoga, you notice what you notice. So it could be the breath, it could be anything you sense around you, within you. It could be the way you're feeling, physically, mentally, emotionally. Reminding ourselves here that this practice really is about harnessing a more sustained sense of presence. Using presence as our tool to know if we're performing our postures wisely. And as you feel ready, bowing toward the heart. Release your hands, lift your head, let your eyes come open, and welcome. So we're going to do a couple warm-ups from seated and then a few from the table position. So since we're going to be seated for a little while longer, just change the crossing of the legs. We're just going to start with the head, the neck, the shoulders. So go ahead and lower your chin toward your chest. And on an inhale, just roll the head to one direction. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, other side. Just kind of starting to notice if there is some tension here, if there's some limited range of motion. And as you repeat this simple movement, does that start to change? And also just using the simple movement pattern to establish a connection with your breath so that the breath is really setting the pace. So this journey toward precision starts with using extension to create space. So we're just going to start to create a little more space in the body. When you come back to center with the head, just lift the head. We're going to start to move the shoulders from the back to the front first. And you're just going to kind of imagine you're roughing out a circular pattern. So it might feel a little jerky. It might not feel very circular. So just kind of create as much of a circular pattern with your shoulders as you can, moving from the back to the front. And as you start to find a smoothness, a fluidity in this movement, you might begin to make it a little bigger. And the next time your shoulders come forward, just leave them there for a moment and just begin to switch direction. And it might go back to feeling a little bit jerky again, a little bit limited. And while you're kind of repeating this little movement pattern with the shoulders, notice what your breath is doing. Sometimes I think of the image of we're just kind of sweeping out the cobwebs in the body. And come back to a shoulders back position above the hips, and take one hand next to your kind of out from the hip line and take the other arm up and over. So we don't want to be like I'm a little teapot tipping over. So really try to keep your lighter sitting bone established in the floor through the prop if you have one. So for my good friend Megan, who just joined us, just filling you in, I am COVID positive. Megan's a doctor dealing with the front lines, but I'm doing very well, and we're going to take the class a little milder today. So that's for Megan. And we're going to inhale up and out of it. And as you're ready, go to the other side. And just a few breaths. Bring yourself up and out of it. And now sweep the hands behind you slightly. Use your hands like little kickstands. So you are leaning back. Sometimes in other poses, we don't want to lean back. Here you do, because you're trying to extend your spine from a seated position. Use your shoulder blades to really lift the chest and push it forward. And try not to drop your head. This is in forward bends, we kind of, our breaking point in that wave is usually the low back. In back bends, a lot of times our breaking point is the neck. So lift and lengthen through the crown. Keep a clean, fluid wave of energy along the spine, up through the brainstem and through the top of your head as if the spine continued all the way. And in forward bends, we want to keep the sense of lift and spread across the chest. So you're going to start to bring yourself kind of through a neutral upright position and now start to creep the hands forward. But you're trying to keep the chest broad and spread. So don't let your chest sink back toward your shoulder blades. Try to keep your chest really forward. And also don't uproot your sitting bones. So keep a sense of kind of anchored establishment in the seat as you crawl forward. And once you feel like you've reached that limit, bow your head. So the shoulders should kind of push back, the chest should pull forward. And if you're feeling the reverse of that, you just bring a little effort to scrubbing your fingertips toward your body so that you can keep the chest really shining brightly, not kind of sinking back into the shadows. And now walk the hands in and bring your spine up. And lastly, we're going to do twisting from here. So on an in-breath, raise the arms. And on an exhale, we're turning to the right. So bring your left hand to your knee or thigh, your right hand behind you. You might need to prop the hand higher so that you don't have to lean back for the twist. You want to keep the spine really very upright. And keep your chin gently floating in line with the sternum. So this is so that we don't prematurely twist from the upper spine. We want to really let the twist grow from the floor up. And when you sense there's some movement around the armpit chest, around the chest itself, then bring the head around and look to the back behind you. And notice in your twist that the legs start to float away from the floor. Keep that sense of release in your hips and groins. So you're really staying well anchored, which means your twist will go deeper. Just let the next exhale drain out completely. And let the inhale that follows bring you back to center, raising the arms, creating lightness and lift in the torso. On the exhale, moving to the left. Try to stay really balanced over your sitting bones. And see if you can just observe the twist climbing the spine. You might move to resting the back of the right hand against the knee or thigh, which helps you bring the armpit chest around. Make sure you're not starting to grip in your hips or groins, which will limit your twist. And of course, bringing the head around as you're ready. Let the next exhale fully drain from the body. And when you're ready to breathe in, raise the arms, lengthen out of the twist. Come back to center, exhale, release the arms down. So we're gonna keep warming up. We're gonna warm up now from hands and knees, a table pose. If you need support for the wrists, you can always have the hands more forward than the shoulder line. You can turn the fingers out as well. And on an exhalation, just come into your cat pose. Empty all the breath. You'll stay in cat as long as you're breathing out. And on an in-breath, you can soften your elbows, try to thread the chest through the space of the arms. Lift the tailbone, but also don't let your back body fall into your front body. Keep your front body helping support your back body. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow tilt. And really, again, the breath is leading the movement, so let your breath tell you where to be when. Exhalation, cat. Inhalation, cow. And just a couple more. When you come to the end of your next breath, come back to a neutral spine. We'll come into sunbird sequence. So on an in-breath, you're just going to take a nice big in-breath. And on your exhale, pull your right knee to your forehead. Inhale, extend your leg back. Exhale, draw the knee to the forehead again. Inhale, extend the leg back. And once more, hug the knee in nice and close. And then reach the leg back and hold it there. And remember how there's a tendency to hang weight from the low back. So scoop your stomach muscles towards your back and extend through your right foot. Extend your left arm forward. Revolve the left arm so your palm faces up, which opens the chest more. And suck that shoulder back into toward the hip. Good. Just a few breaths. You're bringing heat into the body. You're starting to kind of stoke that inner fire. And now place the hand, place the knee, widen the knees and sit back and just take a few moments in child's pose. Supporting your forehead directly on the floor or onto your hands or on your fists. And placing the head in a way that you're really fluid from the brainstem to the tailbone. Sometimes we kind of crease the neck. So be closer to the hairline so that you have one single curve from the brainstem to the tailbone. And now we'll come into the left side. So back to your hands and knees, closing the knees slightly so they're only as wide as hips and separating the feet so they're as wide as the knees. And again, a big in-breath here, and on your exhale, hugging left knee to forehead. Inhale, stretch the leg back and look forward. And again, hug it in. Empty the breath so you can close that space a little more. Inhale, reach it back, keeping your low back happy. One more time here. Hug it in. Extend it back and hold. Really try to level your hips. We have to lift on the right side and lower on the left to create a nice level sacrum. Scoop your stomach muscles towards the back body. Extend the right arm. Rotate the right palm to face up. And suck that shoulder back toward the hip so you can shoot the breastbone forward. Good. One more inhale. On the exhale, you can release the hand down, the knee down. And once again, just widen the knees, sweep the feet together, and sit back for one more child's pose. And as you're ready, you're gonna spread a blanket out over the center of your mat. We're gonna do a series of prone back bends. We are not coming up to standing at all today, so we're gonna do everything very low, close to the floor. Also have your strap nearby. So the blanket is just to create a little padding for your, your hips, not to be super bulky or excessive, just padding, thin blanket. We're gonna start in Supta Tadasana. So feeling that one straight line of energy is a great place to start with back bends, because we really wanna maintain that sense of one sweeping fluid line of energy in the body as we start to arc. And so you're gonna come onto your chest, your stomach, your legs, extend your arms in front of you. And you can look down at the floor, but don't place the head because we want to be able to breathe. So just kind of look down at the floor and just create action in your legs. So you're not just flopping the legs lazily, you're firing up the legs as you would in standing mountain pose. So you're gripping the quadriceps, you're engaging the tailbone toward the floor. Your kneecaps should feel like they wouldn't be wobbly if you were to grab them and try to move them around. You're centered on your thighs. You're on the tops of your feet. And as you extend through your fingertips, don't let the shoulders run with the fingertips. Direct the shoulders away from the fingertips. Root the shoulders, anchor the shoulders into the torso. Use the arms to create space in the sides of your torso. So imagine you're using the action of the arms to create more distance between the side ribs. So if you're doing this correctly, if you're engaging the wise actions, you should be using effort, you should be getting a little tired. So that's a good sign. And just feel the flow of energy from the feet through the fingertips and crown. Good. And now just let it go across your arms, rest your cheek, wave your legs back and forth, release your lower back. So we'll start to move into mild arcing with that line of energy, mild back bends, kind of turning the dial up slowly. Again, we're not going to get too intense today, but we're going to articulate the finer points of this work, which will really inform more vigorous work down the road someday. So come into Sphinx pose, elbows in line with shoulders. Start with your palms up. And with your palms up, see if you can draw your elbows toward your hips to help move the shoulder blades into the chest and help the chest kind of lift and spread. And then you might not feel like you're doing this directly, but your imagination is very useful in yoga. So think about revolving the flesh of the upper arms from the inner upper arms out, further helping the chest move forward. And then keeping all of that, rotate the palms down, especially the inner wrists. Try to anchor the inner wrists down. Meanwhile, the butt should be really relaxed. It should be jiggly. If you were to touch your butt, it wouldn't be clamped or clenched. And you're using the tailbone into the floor action to keep the lumbar long. So if you were to look at the flesh of the low back, it's not scrunched up, it's long. And then let your neck really be aligning with the spine in a way that makes sense. So you're not jutting the head forward. You're not looking up at something interesting and letting the neck follow. So let the line of the neck really follow the line of the spine. Maybe close your eyes. Think about rolling your small toes down and lifting your inner thighs up. So when we extend, we create space. When we create space, we start to feel freedom. And then the freedom brings precision. Good. Okay, so we're gonna help this along with the strap now. So grab your strap. We're going to take the arms away from grounded on the floor, and we're going to hold the strap in our hands. So just rest your head, grab your strap, and the first version we're going to do, we're going to have the palms facing the ceiling. And you're going to keep your legs grounded, your feet grounded, lift your head, look forward, and your hands are only shoulder distance wide apart. You're going to direct your hands toward your feet so that the arms fully straighten. And you're going to try to revolve the inner upper arms towards the outer upper arms. You're going to engage your tailbone toward the floor. Keep the inner thighs lifted, small toes down, and start to pull the strap toward the feet and use that to help you lift the chest away from the floor, any amount. And then observe that you're not throwing your neck. Remember, our back bends kind of break at the neck sometimes. So you want to feel fluid from the crown to the tailbone, but I should say from the tailbone to the crown. Back of the neck is long. You might need to adjust your gaze down. So just run the test of, do I feel extended? Do I feel spacious? Do I feel free? Or do I want this to end right away? And then do I feel like I'm articulating precise movement in the body? And then go ahead and relax, release the strap. We're going to come back to it in a moment, so just leave it on your thighs or your butt, wherever it is. Cross your arms, rest your head. Bend your knees, sweep the legs back and forth. Good. And now this time we're going to grab the strap with the palms facing down. You'll have to kind of work the flesh of the arms a little bit differently here. We have gravity kind of dropping those shoulders here, so we have to work a little harder to lift the shoulders away from the floor to revolve the flesh of the inner upper arms. So one thing that's going to be helpful is your feet can be a little bit wider than your hips. Take the tailbone into the floor, try to close the gapping in the front hip flexors between your front upper thighs and the floor. Direct your tailbone away from your shoulders. Good. And now lifting the hands slightly higher, pulling them toward the feet and creating that resistance between the hands. Coil the shoulder blades in, revolve the inner upper arms. Feel the chest lift and spread, feel the shoulders move back. And then make sure the neck is a clean sweep, that you're not kind of pinching off at the neck. We need to express line of energy through the top of the head. So sometimes that means you have to adjust the chin toward the chest slightly. You might have to look down a little bit, then straight across the room. So do you still feel spacious? Do you feel freedom here? Do you feel like you can keep these wise actions really precisely happening in the body? And then let yourself release out. Cross your arms again. Bend your knees, float the legs back and forth. Our poses are contraction. So they're like squeezing a fist, and then there's the time after the pose, and we get that flush of energy from releasing the contraction and the effort, that closed fist of the pose. Okay, so you can put your strap aside. We're going to come into locust pose, where basically we're inverting the direction of energy. So we're going to be extending the energy out through the feet. So you're going to take a moment to just place your palms on the floor under your thighs. You're sitting on the backs of your hands. And I'm going to keep my head lifted, but you're going to either place your chin, nose tip, or forehead. So classically it's classically it's chin, but for a lot of us that's really kind of extreme. So you're going to do nose tip or forehead. And we're going to take this one leg at a time. So the first order of business is adjusting the tailbone to the floor, lengthening the lumbar. Also clamping the elbows in a little bit. As you do that, you'll notice your shoulders lift away from the floor and your chest stays more open. So clamp the elbows in a little bit. Keep your left leg really densely heavy on the floor, extending through the left bottom of your foot. And on an exhalation, begin to raise the right leg. Keep clamping your elbows together. Watch your breath. Really expressing nice length through the ball mounds, toes, and heel of the right foot. Be more interested in the lengthening process than the lift. Let the lifting be a byproduct. Last 2 breaths. And lower that nicely, newly long, elongated leg back down. You can flip your palms face up and just take a moment with your cheek down, resting. You might sweep the legs again if that was helpful. That feels helpful here. Just kind of reset. Sometimes I call this the Etch-a-Sketch. We all had that game probably when we were little, or some of us did. And sweeping the legs is like clearing the Etch-a-Sketch board. Shaking that board. Go ahead and extend your legs again if you did do the sweeping movement, and put the palms back on the floor, the backs of your hands under the front thighs again. Clamp the elbows in. You're setting up for second side. And just be sure that you're on all 5 of your right toes evenly, that you're not favoring your big toe. Especially bring the small toe down, especially lift the inner thigh up. And then take the tailbone into the body, into the floor. Clamp the elbows to get the shoulders to move correctly. Look forward with the nose tip or chin down, or you're going to take the forehead down. On an exhalation, begin to extend the left leg. Again, you're way more interested in length on that leg, horizontal length, than how high it's rising. And it might be helpful to move your attention into the right leg and just don't even think about the left leg. Now that you've got the actions going in the left leg, let maybe your focus be on keeping your right leg heavy and neutral and anchor, really. One more in breath. And then keep the length and start to lower. And again, you're just going to let the hands flop out so palms face up. They're no longer under your legs. Bend your knees, maybe sweep the legs back and forth. So we want to be really refreshed because we're going to attempt to do both legs at the same time, which will take a little bit more power. And for this last version, both legs, we're going to do the classical version where we have the palms face up. We are not releasing, we're not planting the hands under the thighs for this. Your arms will be existing right outside your body. Palms are free and clear, face up. And just as we come up, not yet though, we really want to try to raise the wrists to be level with the shoulders. So we want the arms really, really level with the floor. So before you lift anything, let your hands rest, let your feet rest, adjust your tailbone into the floor. You're going to look forward for this one. You're not resting your chin, nose tip, or forehead. You're looking forward. Take an in-breath, and on your exhale, lift your arms and legs. And you might need to peek back and see that the wrists are aligning with the shoulders. Shoot the breath going forward. Move the flesh of the inner upper arms towards the outer upper arms. Lengthen the neck. Notice where you might feel some oppression in the body. This is a sign that we're not having the freedom that we're supposed to find. If there's oppression or that feeling you want it to be over, see if you can find your way out of that, back to freedom, back to space. And then you can employ that precision again. Lift your inner thighs. Find that sweeping fluid arc in the body. You should feel somewhat like you're still in Tadasana. You're just kind of bending Tadasana. And then go ahead and let it go. Again, resting the cheek, bending the legs, sweeping the legs back and forth. Let it go. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to come into modified bow pose. Very similar to what you just did. We're just going to have the arms going in the other direction. So it's kind of like mountain pose when we raise the arms overhead. We're going to be putting the arms in front of us. Palms are facing. Arrange your legs. So again, be evenly weighted on all 10 toes. Take the tailbone into the floor. Remind yourself that extend the fingers forward, but the shoulders go in the other direction, away from the fingers. Take an in-breath. On your exhalation, lift just slightly off the floor. Remember, it's way more interesting to be long than it is to be lifted or arced. So one thing BKS Iyengar said about backbends is they're not meant to be for exhibitionism. They're meant to be felt and sensed. They're not performance art. So feel and sense your way to feeling extended, spacious, free, and precise. Whatever that is for you. Lift the inner thighs, roll the small toes down. Keep the tailbone moving into the floor. Suck the shoulders back to the body as you extend through the fingertips. And use your arms to create length to the sides of the trunk. Good. One more in-breath, exhale, let it go. Cross your arms, rest your cheek, bend your knees. And of course, with the full bow pose on another day, we're grabbing the front ankles and we're making that arc more extreme. Okay, next chapter of our class today is going to be some seated work to prepare for full wheel. Don't worry, we're not doing full wheel. We're going to do just a little bit of preparation for that one day, someday pose with the arm action. So we're going to create a little perch that we can sit on comfortably. You can sit however is best for you. And we'll be working with the strap at some point, not right away, so just have it nearby. Okay. So we're going to be working on Gomukhasana arms, but we're not going to work on it directly just yet. We're going to start with Paschima Namaskarasana, which is prayer pose, but behind the back. And so prayer pose behind the back has both arms in the lower position of Gomukhasana. So this is Gomukhasana. We're going to come into prayer pose where both arms are kind of in that same lower arm position. So we're going to prepare for that by taking our left arm, forearm behind our back, and with your right hand, grab onto your left wrist and pull your arm to the right. So essentially you're attempting to put your left elbow in line with your left shoulder. Okay, so from there, you're going to clasp your hands together here. So you're doing your interlocking hands. And with that kind of stronger hold, pull the arm over even more so. And then as you can see, I have my right elbow kind of poking out to the side. I'm going to bend my right elbow back to help me really get the shoulders open. So this is kind of step one, is we get a lot of connective tissue issues in the shoulders, and really releasing some of those little hindrances in the shoulders can be very effective with the arm movements that are required for those deeper back bends. So I thought this could be good work today when we're taking a little bit more mild for me, but it's useful. Okay, so now that you've done this, you can release the interlock, but don't lose the line of the left arm here. And see if you can maintain your left elbow where it is in space. Don't let it poke out as you attempt to bring the back of the left hand toward the center between the shoulders. You're just kind of sliding that left hand like someone's giving you a nice reassuring touch to your upper back. It's that same area, dorsal spine. You'll notice that left elbow wants to poke out, so you're really trying to clamp it in. Good. And meanwhile, you're thinking of the flesh of the shoulder moving from front to back. You're going to feel it want to do the opposite. So you can even encourage it and just roll the flesh from front to back. Really good articulations to make that will give you that sense of freedom in these back bends, which frankly can feel very oppressive and we can be very averse to them. So it's good work. So go ahead and release slowly. We're going to try the other side. So we'll take the right arm behind our backs. Left hand is going to grab onto the right wrist. We're going to gently pull so that we bring that right elbow more directly in line with the shoulder. Then you're going to interlock your hands and kind of use the side body to keep the hands anchored there, but then fold the elbow back, left elbow back. And just sit with the sensation. You might feel some resistance in the shoulders. Think about the connective tissue in the shoulders. Think about the movement of flesh from the front of that right shoulder. Let it rotate back. And breathe into it. Take a few good quality breaths. Sweep out those cobwebs. Good. And now you're going to try to maintain the alignment of that right elbow under the shoulder, but let go of the interlock. You can release the left arm for now and see if you can maintain that right elbow where it is in space and try to move the back of the hand toward the center line between the shoulder blades. You might not get there. Go to your edge. Yep. Okay. And now softly let the hand slide down. Release both arms as if you're in Shavasana, as if you have little sprinklers coming out of your fingertips, and just maybe tip the pinkies up, the thumbs down to release the effort of the arms. Good. So we're not yet going into full Gomukhasana. We just did the bottom arms on each side so that we can attempt for reverse prayer behind the back. So the first thing you want to do is just try to grab your opposite elbows behind you. Roll your shoulders back so they're sitting above the hips. Move the shoulder blades in. And now keep the shoulders as they are. See if you can extend the hands to, extend the arms, sorry, and put the palms together. I'm going to turn around so you can see what I'm saying. So from here, we're going to here. And now you're going to take the fingertips onto your back. And then you're going to take the pinkies onto your back. And then you're going to start to move the hands slightly up, 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 as high as you can. And when you get to your peak, then you're going to try to recover the rotation of the shoulders, which want to really curl forward here. So move the shoulders back, move the shoulder blades in, lift and spread the chest, try to seal the hands together, which might not happen. You might prefer to stay here. You might prefer to interlock the hands and work here. But just take a few breaths wherever you are finding that right amount of sensation. We won't get very far in our more vigorous back bends if we don't do this kind of work. Okay. And softly release out of it. And again, do that same action with your arms, extending 45 degrees like you have sprinklers for fingertips. Lengthen through the fingertips. Tilt the pinkies up and the thumbs down. Nice. Okay, so we have set up for Gomukhasana now. You might need your strap, so just keep it nearby. You're gonna fix the bottom arm first. Sometimes in Gomukhasana, we fix the top arm first. Today, we're gonna fix the bottom arm first because we already did that, so it makes sense. So you're gonna take your left arm behind your back again, elbow in line with the shoulder as best you can, and then slide the back of the hand up to the dorsal spine. Right arm extends up. Revolve the arm fully, which means you're going to tilt the pinky back and the thumb forward. And then keep the arm as extended as you can. And then bend the elbow. And connect your fingertips. And if that's not going to happen, you're going to grab your strap with that right arm and make that connection. And then take a moment to adjust so that you're making sure you're not pushing your head forward. You might feel the elbow tips curling forward. Resist that. Take the elbow tips back, which drives the shoulder blade tips forward. It might be helpful to close your eyes, look down, keep a sense of awareness on the foundation of this pose, because in this pose, we kind of fly up with the excitement and the energy of the upper body. So keeping your gaze down. And see if you can create as much length to your left side body as you have on your right. Good. And now gently release. Go back to your seated Shavasana arms. Maybe play with rotation to release any leftovers that don't feel good. And then we'll go into second side. Right hand comes in low first. So elbow moves in to the left. Hand slides up toward the area between the shoulder blades. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Drive your right elbow down as you extend up through the left fingertips. Raise the left arm. Revolve the left arm as fully as you can. Find your straightest arm. Your wrist should be on top of your shoulder. And then bend the elbow, connect your fingertips. Somehow, maybe the strap is needed. Take the elbow tips toward the wall behind you. Keep your skull really centered over that post of your spine. Slacken your jaw, maybe close the eyes. And feel how the shoulders want to curl forward, and use the work you've done with the imagination and the movement of flesh in the shoulders. Try to keep the flesh of the shoulders rotating front to back. And just a few more breaths. Good. And release. Go ahead and take a little refreshing moment with your arms, whatever you need to do. We're going to work with the strap now. So you're going to create a loop with your strap that when it is placed right above the elbows, your hands will be as wide as your shoulders. So we don't want this. We want as close together as we can be shoulder distance. Some of us have limitations, in which case this might be your max, but you're going to create a loop that is right at your peak. Ideally shoulder width apart, but if it needs to be wider, it needs to be wider. Okay. And then just go ahead and fit the strap, make sure it's the right measurement for you. And then what you're going to do is leave it aside for now. Well, I just wanted you to have a moment without the strap just to kind of be able to compare the two. So take your arms up. Palms start by facing. Just see how close together you can get the hands. Again, we're not going any narrower than shoulders, but attempt to be shoulder distance with the hands. And then from here, revolve your palms to face back. Good. And then think about this really straight up energy from the shoulder to the elbow. Keep that and go ahead and take your fingertips to the tops of your shoulders. Notice how the elbows want to flap apart. So clamp the elbows in. Yes, good. Extend up through the elbow tips. And feel how this really grows the sides of the torso. Don't let your eyebrows lift. Try not to harden your temples. Don't let your legs fly up into your arms. Re-extend the arms straight up. Revolve the hands to face again. And then release the arms down. So the strap is going to really train the arms to do that. They won't be able to go anywhere. So we're going to get a good kind of reinforcement of that whole work we just did. So here's the thing, is it's a little bit of a maneuver to get the strap above the elbows and behind the head. You'll get there. Good. So above the elbows, behind the head. And this is actually a really good thing because I want you to push your head into the strap. Extend up through the fingertips, but drive the shoulders down. Again, don't let your forehead lift. Don't let your eyebrows lift. Good. Palms are facing. Wonderful. Go ahead and release out of that strap. Give your arms some blood flow if you lost a little bit there. And put your strap aside. We're going to bring this onto the floor and just apply it just very momentarily to feel what those correct actions are in the arm to one day, someday, and I'll just show you quickly for those of you that don't know. One day, someday. Lifting into bridge pose, full wheel. It did not mean to say bridge pose, full wheel, Urdhva Dhanurasana. So you're going to be coming onto your back, as you probably already did. Walk your heels in toward your sitting bones. And I do it several times on each side. I just kind of step my feet as close as they can come to my sitting bones. And then turn your tailbone up toward the ceiling, into the body. When we were prone, it was toward the floor. Now that we're on our backs, it's toward the ceiling, but it's the same action. Take your arms overhead, straight above overhead, palms facing, extend through your fingertips, but draw the shoulders into the trunk. And now turn your palms to face up, to face the ceiling. And now you're going to let your elbows bend, but don't let them be as wide as they want to be. Clamp them in. You're dragging your fingertips toward your head. And then eventually you're going to be trying to take your hands, fingers, palms to the floor so that your fingertips are pointing at your shoulders. And then squeeze the elbows closer together. And I want you to just hold that action for a few breaths. Squeezing the elbows close together, pressing the hands into the floor. And as you squeeze the elbows closer together, extend them away from the shoulders as you did when you were seated. Extend the shoulders into the trunk, extend the elbows away from the shoulders. Good, and let that go. Let your hands rest on your belly. Let your feet separate wide, let your knees fall together, and just sweep the legs back and forth. Okay, we are going to take a full bridge pose with strap support in the hands before we wind down with twisting and shavasana. So your strap is fine if it's still looped, it doesn't matter. What you want to be doing is run it kind of right under the buttocks, between your butt and your feet. And you're going to be grabbing it with your hands, palms up, and your hands should be no wider than your shoulders, or maybe just slightly wider than your shoulders. And once you're gripping the strap with your palms up, you're going to pull your hands apart and use that to help you rock your shoulder blades, your shoulders down to the floor and your shoulder blades into the chest. You're going to rock a little bit from side to side. The heels should be as close to the sitting bones as they can be. Your toes are in front of your heels. And now you're going to just kind of eliminate the gap between your lower back and the floor. So pelvic tilt, tailbone to the ceiling. Rock your head so your chin comes in close to your chest. Really step into your feet, and on an exhale, lift your hips. Think about lifting your pinkies up and your thumbs down. Think about keeping the arms straight and extending the fingertips away from the shoulders, but don't let the shoulders run with the fingertips. Let your butt relax. Use your legs instead. Use your pelvic tilt instead. Use your arms. Use your shoulders. Roll the inner thighs down. Step into your big toes especially. Keep taking the tailbone toward the ceiling to elongate the lumbar. And try to keep your knees no wider than your hips. Clamp the knees. Let your chest find your chin. 3 more breaths. Top of the in-breath, and then the exhale that follows will release you out of it. So let the strap go, widen the shoulders, walk the spine down. And when your lower back comes down, drop it into the floor, restore your neutral lumbar curve, draw your legs into your body, either grabbing from behind the thighs or over the shins. And then you're going to cup your knees with your hands and just circle the knees around, giving your lower back a massage. And try to really touch all the surface area of that bony plate of your sacrum. And at some point, just land or pause and switch direction. And so you want to make smaller circles and bigger ones so that you can really touch that whole bony plate. And come back to center. Stretch the arms wide in each direction. And you can let your legs fall to the left. And if they don't want to land on the floor, you might tuck something under your bottom leg so that you can have support. Take your left hand onto your top leg. So the legs can really just become passive. And then roll your head so that you're looking straight up, or begin to roll your head to the right. And if your right shoulder bothers you here, which it hopefully shouldn't after all that shoulder work, but if it does, that's okay. Just rest your right hand alongside your body, on your side body. And make sure as you transition back to center, you're using your stomach muscles to support that transition. You're corseting those muscles so that your spine doesn't feel insecure. We want to keep everything stabilized as we transition. And then when you're back to center, regrow the arms out to each side and let the knees fall to the right. And again, prop if you need to, a block, a bolster, a blanket. Take your right hand onto your top leg and let your neck either stay neutral, kind of right there, facing the ceiling, or starting to revolve a bit more to face off to the left. And you might just think about, you might want to not do this actively, but just think about those outer left ribs descending toward the floor. Really don't have to be very active at this point. So just enjoy the next few breaths, being in this pose, observing the breath flow here, observing the surrendering of the body. And again, when you're ready to transition back, just make sure to use your supportive stomach muscles, help yourself back to center. And at that point, do anything that your body is requesting before we come into final resting pose, which is a pose of stillness and a pose of zero effort. So you don't want to really have to do anything actively in that pose. So just take a moment to address anything else that wants to come through here, wants to shift or move, wants some attention, and then set up your supported Shavasana, meaning whatever is needed to keep the body quiet. Blankets, bolsters, eye pillows. Set your feet spaciously wider than your hips. Extend your arms out 45 degrees from shoulders to wrists. Rock your head a little bit to encourage the back of the neck to close in on the floor. And just begin to listen to the body. The next stage after this, all this work, this lineage of the work from precision, we move to truth. Next week in restorative work, we'll really explore that, but this is a mini moment of that kind of byproduct of this work. Just feeling the truth of the moment, the what is here and now, what is present, what remains. After we address tension in the body, after we free some limitation in the body. And hopefully paired with this truth, this knowing, is contentment. Radical acceptance. That less obvious portal to presence of radical acceptance. I'm just enjoying a few deep cleansing breaths. Maybe taking a couple exhales to their very end, their very finish. And resume with your easy automatic breathing. Just begin to create very slight movement in the body. Letting it trickle in from your fingers and toes inward. Letting your hands eventually fold onto your belly. Letting your feet, soles of your feet slide onto the floor. And then from there, easing yourself to one side. And when you get to your side, just tuck your hands under your head and make a little support for your head. And then from there, use your hands against the floor to bring yourself up to seated. Feeling that sense of spaciousness in easy seated, good space pose. Joining the hands in front of the heart, extending the fingertips slightly forward away from the heart. Pull the shoulders back. We'll take an inhale here through the nose and let it go. And the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. I'm teaching a makeup class for Tuesday on Sunday. So those of you that missed level 2 this week because I was out ill can come on Sunday at 10 Central. And I'll see you guys soon. Mwah. Thanks, baby.